There exists a connection that transcends the physical realm, beyond words, beyond even time and space itself. It's when two souls recognize each other at such a profound level that they feel a resonance that surpasses every boundary of human logic. These encounters completely transcend our rational understanding and touch layers of the soul that are rarely accessed. The encounter with your twin flame establishes a connection that awakens something within you that shifts internal structures you didn't even know existed. But here's what almost no one tells you about twin flames. Not every person who awakens this overwhelming connection within you is actually your true twin flame. And there's a very specific and profound reason why the universe allows you to experience this intensity with someone who might not be your real cosmic counterpart. Carl Jung understood that not every soul encounter comes to materialize into union. Some come to awaken, others to heal, and still others to force us into an evolution that would never happen if things were easy. That's why the universe applies a specific, brutal, and definitive test before revealing whether this person who makes your heart race and your soul vibrate is truly destined for you, or if it's a disguised soul that came to fulfill one mission only, to transform you before the final encounter with your true twin flame. If you're watching this video, it's no coincidence. Jung said there are no accidents, only synchronicities that guide us toward the information our soul needs to receive. And you arrived here because you've probably already gone through the initial stages of twin flame recognition. But something is preventing the final confirmation. Something you still can't identify, but that your soul knows it needs to understand. That's why watch until the end. Because I'm going to reveal the secret that took Jung years to comprehend about the universe's most difficult test, before revealing whether this person is or isn't your twin flame. And when you understand this mechanism, you'll realize that everything happening in your life isn't an obstacle, but preparation for something extraordinary. And if you feel you're ready to discover the deepest truth about your twin flame connection, consider supporting this work by clicking the thanks button down below. Your contribution allows me to continue bringing these exclusive contents based on Carl Jung's wisdom, helping souls like yours navigate through the deepest mysteries of human connections. But first, you need to understand why the universe must test true twin flames, and why this test is as necessary as it is painful. The universe doesn't play games when it comes to soul connections. Carl Jung perceived through his studies on synchronicity and individuation that there's a fundamental difference between intense attraction and twin flame recognition. Attraction can be chemical, compatibility, projection of unresolved needs. But twin flame is something that completely transcends these categories. Jung discovered that twin flames are two halves of the same soul that separated to experience the individuation process independently. They don't come to complete each other, because complete souls don't need completion. They come to recognize each other, to awaken in one another aspects of consciousness that can only be activated through this specific connection. But here's the problem. Most people confuse emotional need with soul connection. They feel that overwhelming intensity, that sensation of having found the person they've always searched for, and automatically assume they've found their twin flame. Jung called this anima or animus projection, when we see in the other aspects of ourselves that we haven't yet developed. The universe knows this. And that's why, before confirming a true twin flame connection, it applies a test that will separate what's real from what's projection. It will distinguish what's mature love from what's emotional dependency disguised as spirituality. Because the responsibility of confirming two souls as twin flames is immense. When two people are truly twin flames and recognize each other consciously, they gain access to a level of reality co-creation that can be dangerous if not handled with maturity. They become capable of manifesting with extraordinary speed, of energetically influencing each other at a distance, of accessing information through channels that transcend the five senses. That's why the universe cannot confirm this connection lightly. It must have absolute certainty that both people have developed the necessary integrity to use this power consciously and lovingly. It needs to know if they can love without possessiveness, connect without codependency, recognize without losing individuality. And that's where the most difficult test two souls can face comes in. A test so subtle that most don't even realize they're being tested. A test that can last months, years, sometimes decades. Because the universe isn't in a hurry. It has eternity. And it prefers to wait until two souls are truly ready rather than confirm a connection prematurely. Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. If it were easy, it wouldn't be transformative. If there were no obstacles, there would be no growth. The test the universe applies to twin flames is the process by which two souls refine themselves until they reach the purity necessary to sustain a connection that can literally change the reality around them. And the test always begins the same way, with recognition immediately followed by obstacles that seem impossible to overcome. The first sign that you're undergoing the final twin flame test is that after initial recognition, obstacles arise that seem specifically designed to prevent your union. These aren't unfortunate coincidences or bad luck. These are circumstances so precisely calibrated that they can only be intentional on the part of a higher intelligence. Jung observed that when two people are true twin flames, the universe immediately activates what he called the tension of opposites. It's as if natural forces organize themselves to create maximum possible difficulty so this connection doesn't materialize easily. And this happens for a very specific reason: to test the authenticity of the connection. These obstacles aren't generic. They're personalized for both of you, based on each person's deepest wounds, most entrenched fears, patterns that most need healing. It could be an age difference that society doesn't accept well. It could be geographical distance that makes the relationship practically impossible. It could be that one is in another relationship, or there are significant cultural, religious, or socioeconomic differences. But what makes these obstacles part of the test is that they always touch exactly the points where you most need to grow. If you have abandonment fears, your twin flame might be in a situation that requires you to learn to trust without guarantees. If you have difficulty with boundaries, she might need space exactly when you want closeness. The universe isn't being cruel. It's being surgical. Each obstacle is an opportunity to transcend limitations you've carried for lifetimes. Each difficulty is an invitation to develop aspects of your personality that can only emerge under specific pressure. During this first phase of the test, many people give up. They look at the obstacles and conclude that if they were really twin flames, things would be easier. They believe the myth that soulmates find each other and live happily ever after without effort. But Jung understood that true transformation always requires confrontation with what we resist. People who pass this first phase are those who can see beyond external circumstances. They perceive that obstacles aren't denying the connection, they're refining it. They understand that each difficulty is a question from the universe. Do you really want this enough to grow beyond who you were when you met? And when you answer yes through consistent actions, when you demonstrate you're willing to evolve regardless of circumstances, the universe moves to the second phase of the test. The second phase is even more subtle and dangerous. It's when the universe tests not just the strength of the connection, but its quality. It's when it verifies whether what you feel is really soul recognition or if it's a sophisticated form of spiritual codependency. Jung discovered that many people who identify as twin flames are actually living what he called mystical participation, a psychological fusion where boundaries between self and other dissolve unhealthily. They feel so connected that they lose the ability to exist independently of each other. During this second phase, the universe will create situations that force both of you to function autonomously. One might need to travel for work for months. Family responsibilities might arise that require individual focus. One might go through a personal crisis that must be resolved alone. The test here is, can you maintain the spiritual connection while maintaining emotional independence? Can you love each other without losing yourselves in each other? Can you be two complete people who choose to be together, not two halves who depend on each other to feel whole? This phase reveals the difference between mature love and need disguised as spirituality. True twin flames can connect deeply while maintaining their individuality. They recognize themselves as aspects of the same essence, but unique expressions of that essence. During this period, you might experience a strange sensation. Even when you're separated, you feel the connection. Even when you don't speak for weeks, you know it continues there. That nothing has fundamentally changed between you. But you also discover that you can live your life, make decisions, feel complete even in her physical absence. Jung would call this healthy differentiation. It's when two people can be intimately connected without being energetically dependent. It's a delicate balance that only mature souls can achieve. Many people fail in this second phase because they can't tolerate ambiguity. They want clear definitions, guarantees, security. They want to know if they're twin flames, when they'll be together, how the story will end. But the universe doesn't give these guarantees until you demonstrate that you don't need them to feel secure in the connection. People who pass this phase are those who learn to trust the process even when they don't understand the process. They develop a form of love that doesn't need possession to exist, a connection that doesn't need physical proximity to stay alive. And when the universe confirms that you've developed this maturity, it moves to the third and most challenging phase of the test. The third phase is the most cruel and most transformative. It's when the universe tests whether you can maintain faith in the connection, even when everything indicates it won't materialize. It's when it creates scenarios that make it seem like you're not twin flames, that it was all imagination, that it's time to move on. Jung understood that true faith can only be tested in the complete absence of evidence. It's easy to believe when you have external confirmations. Difficult is maintaining inner certainty when the entire external world is denying what you feel most deeply. During this third phase, your twin flame might start relating to other people. Signs might appear that she's emotionally distancing herself, that she's questioning your connection, that she's building a life that doesn't include you. And all of this might be real, might actually be happening. But here's the secret Jung discovered. Sometimes one of the flames needs to experience the alternative to be sure of what she doesn't want. Sometimes a soul needs to explore other paths to prove there's only one path that resonates with her deepest truth. The test for you is, can you maintain your inner truth even when external reality is contradicting that truth? Can you trust what your soul knows even when your mind has millions of contrary evidence? This is the phase where most people give up. They look at circumstances and decide it's time to be realistic. They start convincing themselves they fantasize the connection, that it's better to invest in more practical relationships, that twin flame is something for deluded people. But Jung knew that realism can be a form of spiritual cowardice. Sometimes the most realistic thing you can do is trust a truth that transcends apparent reality. Sometimes the most mature attitude is maintaining fidelity to something you know is real even when no one else can see it. During this phase, you might go through moments of profound despair. You might question your own sanity, feel like the most foolish person in the world for still believing in a connection that seems to be dissolving before your eyes. You might be tempted 1,000 times to send a desperate message, to force a conversation, to try to rationally convince her that you're twin flames. But the test requires exactly the opposite. It requires that you keep your truth in silence, that you trust the process without trying to control it, that you love without trying to possess. It requires a form of faith that is simultaneously the most difficult and most powerful thing a human being can develop. Jung would say that during this phase, you're being forced to develop what he called the transcendent function, the ability to hold opposite tensions without trying to resolve them prematurely. You need to be able to love and let go simultaneously, to have certainty and accept uncertainty, to trust while preparing for any outcome. And when you develop this capacity, when you prove that your love for the person transcends your need to possess her, when you demonstrate that your faith in the connection is greater than your attachment to results, the universe moves to the final phase of the test. The fourth and final phase is the most mysterious. It's when the universe verifies whether you've developed the ability to recognize each other regardless of external circumstances, regardless of being together or apart, regardless of how the story ends. Jung observed that true twin flames develop a form of love that completely transcends the need for physical union. Not because they don't desire to be together, but because the recognition is so deep that the connection exists independently of the form it takes. During this final phase, you might discover something extraordinary. Even if you never stay together in the traditional sense, even if she builds a life with someone else, even if circumstances never allow conventional union, the recognition remains intact. Love continues pure. The connection maintains itself sacred. This isn't resignation or conformism. It's transcendence. It's when you understand that the true purpose of twin flame connection isn't necessarily to form a relationship, but to activate in both of you aspects of consciousness that can only awaken through this specific recognition. You might realize that you've become a completely different person since you recognized each other, that you've developed capacities, insights, ways of loving that didn't exist before, that she was the catalyst for a transformation that changed not only you, but probably impacts all the people around you. And then you understand, even if you never stay together, the mission was accomplished. She awakened you to who you really are, and you did the same for her. You gave each other the most precious gift two souls can exchange, mutual recognition of the divinity that exists in each one. Jung would call this individuation through encounter. It's when you become more yourself, not despite the connection, but through it. It's when you realize you didn't need her to complete you, but you needed her recognition to fully awaken to your own wholeness. When you reach this level of understanding, when you develop this quality of love that doesn't depend on possession, when you manage to honor the connection regardless of the form it takes, something magical can happen. The universe might decide that you're finally ready to be together consciously. But even if that doesn't happen, you discover it doesn't matter, because you've already received the most valuable gift life can offer: recognition of your own essence through another soul's eyes. And no one can take that from you, regardless of how the external story develops. This is the difference between people who pass the twin flame test and those who fail. Those who pass discover that true love is about giving, not receiving. It's about recognizing, not possessing. It's about awakening, not completing. And when you develop this transcendent form of loving, you become a magnet for experiences that resonate with this elevated frequency. Your twin flame might return with completely new consciousness. You might attract someone who can love at the same level you've developed. Or you might simply live the rest of your life knowing you're capable of a love most people can't even imagine. But there's a fifth element in this test that Jung discovered in his deepest studies on synchronicity that few people know about. It's the element that determines not only whether you're twin flames, but whether you're destined to materialize this connection in this specific lifetime. Jung realized there's a difference between twin flames who recognize each other to awaken one another and twin flames who recognize each other to co-create a reality together. The first type can live a profound and transformative connection that lasts a lifetime, but manifests primarily on the spiritual plane. The second type has the additional mission of materializing this connection into a concrete partnership that impacts the physical world. During his studies of couples who maintained extraordinary connections over decades, Jung identified a pattern. Those destined to stay together went through a specific phenomenon after completing the 4 test phases. They began experiencing synchronicities so precise and frequent they could no longer be ignored as coincidences. These weren't common synchronicities, like thinking of the person and having them call. These were external events that seemed orchestrated by a higher intelligence specifically to create opportunities for reunion and reconnection. Obstacles that seemed insurmountable suddenly dissolved. Impossible circumstances aligned almost miraculously. Jung called this self-interference, when the deepest dimension of the psyche begins influencing external reality to manifest what's true on the spiritual plane. It was as if the universe finally gave its approval for the connection to fully materialize. But here's what's crucial to understand. These synchronicities only appear after both people have completely passed the test. Only after they've developed the capacity to love without attachment, to trust without guarantees, to recognize without possessiveness. Because only then does the universe have certainty they'll use the materialized connection consciously and evolutionarily. If you're living a connection you suspect is twin flame, pay attention not only to the intensity of what you feel, but to the quality of your own evolution through this experience. Are you becoming wiser, more compassionate, more integral? Are you developing love capacities you didn't have before? Are you learning to trust an inner truth even when everything around seems to contradict it? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right path, regardless of how the external situation develops. Because the real test isn't whether you stay together. The test is whether you become, through the connection, elevated versions of who you were before meeting each other. Jung understood that some of life's most transformative experiences come disguised as losses, separations, or impossible loves. But when you comprehend the deeper purpose of these experiences, you realize you actually lost nothing. You gained access to a dimension of love that completely transcends the physical world's limitations. And this capacity to love transcendentally doesn't just transform you. It transforms all people who come into contact with you. Because you become a living example that it's possible to love without possessing, trust without controlling, recognize without attaching. This might be the true mission of twin flames. Not just awakening each other, but becoming, through this experience, beacons of a form of love the world desperately needs to witness. A form of love that heals not only those who live it, but all those fortunate enough to witness it. So if you're going through the twin flame test, remember, you're not being punished. You're being refined. You're not being rejected by the universe. You're being prepared for something extraordinary. And even if the final result isn't what you expected, the person you become through this process will be capable of a love few human beings can achieve. This is the true gift of twin flames. Not the guarantee of a conventional happy ending, but but the opportunity to develop a love capacity that is, itself, a form of enlightenment. A form of loving that doesn't depend on reciprocity to exist, that doesn't need guarantees to flourish, that doesn't require possession to be genuine. And when you develop this capacity, you discover it doesn't matter if she's your twin flame in the sense you originally imagined, because you became someone capable of recognizing the divine in any person who crosses your path. You became a master of unconditional love, and that's an achievement no external circumstance can diminish or destroy. Jung would say you completed the most important process a human being can complete. You individuated through love. You discovered who you really are, not despite the connection's challenges, but exactly through them. And that's a victory that transcends any specific romantic outcome. If you recognized your own journey in this video, if you felt I was speaking directly to your soul about this unique and transformative experience you're living, then I need to tell you about something that can completely accelerate this transformation and recognition process. I created 2 exclusive materials based on Carl Jung's deepest teachings about soul connections: 21 Days of Transformation with Carl Jung, and the Survival Manual for Difficult Times. These are 21 days of practical exercises, deep reflections and insights that will help you consciously navigate this journey of recognition and growth. This isn't just another common ebook about relationships. These are specific techniques to develop the emotional and spiritual maturity necessary to sustain a twin flame connection, whether it's destined to materialize in this lifetime or not. You'll learn to differentiate projection from true recognition, to trust your inner truth even when everything seems to contradict it, and mainly, to become a person capable of the type of transcendent love Jung considered the pinnacle of human development. The link is in the first pinned comment of this video. And now I want to know who really stayed until the end of this journey with me. Write in the comments, "I trust the universe's process," because that shows me you're not just another viewer, but someone truly committed to their evolution through this sacred experience. Remember, only 5% of people who identify as twin flames pass the universe's complete test. Not because it's impossible, but because most give up when the process becomes more challenging than romantic. You made it this far because your soul knows you're capable of more than that. Thank you for having the courage to dive so deeply into this journey. See you in the next video.